He just lives in a swamp.
Yeah.
All right, let's do an episode. We'll come back. We'll see if we're going to talk more about Shrek's penis. Good afternoon, meat suits. Welcome back to Read It and Weep. This is a podcast about movies and friendship, and this is season 5. As you know, Kevin Bacon's Exquisite Corpse. That's the name of the season. We are just 4 imprisoned fairy tale characters playing a very long movie-watching game. This cage is too small. I'm your host, Alex Falcone, recording today in Portland, Oregon, in lovely southeast Portland, which is why, if you're watching us on the YouTube stream, you can tell the backdrop's a little different, and there is a man looking over my shoulder right there. See what I'm up to. Well, he's actually looking away from me, disgusted, probably.
Your shoulder. Yeah. I think he's not really interested in your shoulder as much as he is interested in
he thinks about
the dryer
right
or the
here.
cleaner.
Alex, I'm glad you brought this up. 'Cause I've been meaning to talk to you. You know, there's another guy constantly looking over your shoulders. His name's our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Have you heard the good news?
You've been waiting to tell me about him until there was a relatable segue?
Yeah.
Well, it was good art for the show.
I've been waiting for you to either have a picture of another guy over your shoulder or to be walking on a beach and notice footprints go missing. And the second one hasn't come up yet.
Yeah,
So I gotta shoot my shot.
Jesus, when we were on the beach, Jesus had noticed for a while there were 3 steps, and he's like, "Oh, that's when we were doing the sack races. There was a big step in the middle, 2 separate steps. It was a long walk on the beach. We did a lot of stuff." All right, let me introduce the rest of the panel. First up, he's also in Southeast Portland, but in a different house. He's at Anthony Lopez Part 2 on Twitter, and he's nobody's messenger boy. All right, he's a delivery boy. It's Anthony Lopez.
Donkey. That's all I got. I didn't have time to look up a quote.
That's a good one. No, you saw it. I think he says that.
Yeah,
Also
he definitely
joining us-
says donkey.
He's the co-host of the Old Gamers Almanac, the podcast. He is from the woods of Brooklyn, and this will be fun hanging out with him. We'll stay up late. We'll swap manly stories, and in the morning, he's making me waffles. It's Hunter Donaldson.
Hello, I'm Hunter, and I'm here to discuss the film Shrek, and I hope to do so in a serious manner, without any light conversation, jokes, or anecdotes.
We don't want to do anything to step on
its merits. This is an Academy Award-winning picture in here today.
Which award did this get?
Animated feature, my bud.
Did Disney films come out in 2001? What happened? Is this?
It did, but they were all stomped, and no one even remembers them.
What else?
You got to remember, this was still the dark ages for Disney animation. There might have been a
This was
Pixar.
a quiet period.
But also, you got to remember, Shrek was the first animated film in like 70 years to compete in the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Right?
All right,
Like,
yeah.
This was like, a legit movie when it came out. And I think the
And it still is. It's an all-time. It's an all-time classic of cinema.
It beat out
One
Monsters
of its
Inc.
brightest stars.
This beat out Monsters Inc. There was an other green
and Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. It was between 3. They only thought 3 of them were good enough at this
Bested the
time.
boy Neutron, killing him instantly. With its magnitude of cinematic flair.
The thing is,
and storytelling prowess.
nowhere in Monsters Inc. does the villain make a mirror watch him masturbate. So that's really what pushed him over the edge.
Hunter, I'm getting this impression you maybe didn't like Shrek, and I am looking forward to it because I feel like you've been too positive for too long on this show.
Who could stand before the story and structure on display in Shrek and resist, the temptation to love it fully?
I mean, even if you don't love this
good.
movie, even if you don't love like this movie, you have to admire the level of spite that exists within Shrek.
Yeah,
like
100%.
never.
It is an obelisk of spite.
Yeah, I have never.
That's a
Could you
very good
imagine,
point.
like walking in and be like, "What do I want the villain to look like? I want him to look like my old boss.
Yeah.
Make him look
Old
exactly
boss
like
villain.
my old boss, and have my boss be a little person who masturbates in front of a mirror and everyone hates. That's what I want a villain to be.
Yeah,
my old boss.
I love that, and I mean,
crazy.
I mean, that does actually. It's funny because I know the internet loves this movie, and I don't know what it's for yet. But it's not because it's an obelisk of spite, and that is by far its best quality. I don't know why that's not getting more attention.
I actually think that may be a factor. Because think of what the internet respects, if not spite. You know,
pettiness. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
All right, so
All I
also
know
joining,
is-
I haven't even gotten the rest of the panel. You're not seeing him on YouTube because he's also babysitting, but he's you'll hear him all the same. He's in Northern California, and one time he ate some rotten berries, and there were some strong gases leaking out of his butt that day. It's Ezra
Well,
Fox.
Hold on, they were eking out. I feel like it's important to preface, like, which means just a
Yes,
little
the
bit.
line
I
was
wrote,
the line
I
in the
have
film was
eking written down, and then I was like, I probably wrote it down wrong.
For all this masterpiece, and
I did write down eking, and then I was like, I don't understand why I wrote that. It must have been leaking, but no.
yeah, no. It was just. I think there's a little less of it if it's just eking. If it's leaking, it's kind of more of a continue. Anyway,
Could be.
the important thing is parfaits are great, and this is the thing that the movie definitely gets right.
Yeah.
Ooh, look good.
You are the person who doesn't like parfaits.
Parfait. Well, look. Okay, so
The name
parfaits
is perfect. Literally.
Okay, that I like that. Parfait in its best form, perhaps very delicious. But when do you encounter parfaits? What kind of parfaits do you usually encounter? You get airport parfaits, and those are so sad. And it is frequently the only food available to eat in an airport. And it's $14, and it's like, these berries are still frozen. This yogurt is Dannon. Like, it's just a sad, sad time.
Yep, you're right. You know, most people travel in airports as often as you do, Alex. So they definitely it's a very relatable
I think
thing you just mentioned. You know, most
Pity,
people.
when was the last time you encountered a parfait in your life?
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure I know what a parfait is.
No, you of course not, because you're not in an airport. It's the only place they are.
I make parfaits on the reg.
Oh,
I'm not the one who called him perfect. Ezra did. Why are you coming at me? I didn't say that.
And Ezra's out here being like, everyone loves parfaits because I make them. I feel like that was a biased bit of input there.
I will say, Alex, I'm pretty sure the most experienced travelers that on your flight will have their own suitcase full of parfaits that they packed from home. All right, if you're a rookie and buying your own $14 parfaits, that's not my fault.
The hard part about bringing a parfait in your suitcase is that each of the yogurts have to be in 3-ounce bags in a layer between cookies in a 3-ounce bag.
See, the problem, Alex, I mean, with, I think a lot of things in life that would make it put in the context of people is Alex doesn't do things the way normal people do. Right?
That's usually true.
He's not already 4 stiff drinks and been at the airport for 20 minutes like a normal sane person would be.
No.
To really enjoy the parfait.
I drink coffee at the airport, and everybody agrees what you don't need on a plane is uppers. No one needs to be like wide awake to experience the whole flight. That is really dumb. All right, we'll come back to this discussion of parfaits in a minute. But first, let me thank all of our fabulous meat buddies, especially our meat buddy Gabe, who joined some time ago and just emailed us today, filling out the form for the thank you segment, which we will do in a future episode. Didn't have time to prep it today. We'll do it next week. But my favorite part of that email was, I forgot I was supporting you. And that's how I feel like everyone is on our Metreon. And I just appreciate all of you continuing to forget. If you don't remember if you're supporting us or not, don't look it up. Don't worry about it. It's none of your business.
Let it ride.
Yeah, just let it ride. We appreciate everybody who's letting it ride. Metreon.com. And we really appreciate those who keep the show limping down the tracks. All right. A little bit of news today for segment 1. Actually, do you guys want news or do you want personal news?
Give me the news, but in a very personal way.
Yeah,
that's what I want to hear.
Make it about you. Yeah. Make the news story about you personally.
I want to hear how the news affects you, and I want to hear how your personal news affects us. You know what I mean?
There we go.
Yeah, I want the Northeast, West, and South.
Locally. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So the news that I thought we might talk about this week was that NASA's Artemis 1 launch was scrubbed on Monday. Was going to try again on Saturday. Are you guys excited for the SLS? Are you excited we're going back to the moon?
So you know how I knew about this?
How?
Because I get, like all, I think, good foodies, Krispy Kreme email notifications, and they had a Artemis themed donut that did launch. So
they launched their donut
successfully. Yeah,
that is incredible.
That's easier than going to the moon, huh?
I was telling Sarah about it. I was like, "Hey, how does the Artemis launch going?" She's like, "How do you know about this?" Like, well, I got a donut email.
This is one thing that your wife and I have in common, more than you and your wife, is that we care about space. But it's adorable that you get it from your donut news. I wonder if maybe because you're a parent, you're very busy, you might not be getting a lot of national news all the time. if you paid more attention to Krispy Kreme news, would you learn more? Are they launching like you can't drink the water in Mississippi donut? Is that how you're keeping
I know when
informed?
fall is coming because like the pumpkin flavors come out. I mean, there's a lot of. If I only got this bit of information, I could know more about the world than you'd expect.
This feels like a Krispy Kreme gold mine we've sort of found here of just Krispy Kreme like theming their new donuts off every single news story, and that's
from
like
the
how you get your
headlines.
news.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah. Ripped from the headlines. You know, the loan forgiveness donut. You know.
Yeah.
And you can get half of it, or if you got a Pell Grant, you get the whole.
If you got a Pell Grant, you get 2 donuts.
Yeah, I've heard it's like the downfall of society. Kids get all their news through Instagram or whatever. I've not heard the people who only get their news through Krispy Kreme emails. You are a new person, Ezra. You're a new genre of person. Just
all I ever wanted.
Well, I mean, the news is best when it's like nice and fresh. Like if the news gets a little stale,
yeah.
10 minutes old
good,
news.
You know,
You can't handle that's terrible.
You don't want that.
Hot and ready.
I think some news, Krispy Kreme news, ages worse than other news in my experience.
Yeah, but you put it in the microwave. You know that hack?
Yeah. No, but both of you knew it right away. That's amazing.
5-10 seconds, but not 20 seconds.
We're going
not
to
too long.
No.
Wait, interesting. Okay, so Ezra just shared this email. I will add this email to our show notes today, the Krispy Kreme email, in case you too want to get caught up on the news that's available to you.
All the news is fit to eat.
I'm having this. I'm having this donut. I'm about to go across the country. There's going to be a
only
Krispy Kreme, and
it
I'm
was only on the 29th. I'm sorry,
but
buddy.
here's the thing, Ezra. It was only available on the 29th, but the launch did not happen. It got postponed until the Saturday. Are they going to let the donut launch again?
Oh, I hope so.
Because what you didn't get, maybe you didn't get the next day's email that was like, hey, bad news. Our donut was leaking a little bit of hydrogen. And so we had to, it turns out, bad news if you're leaking. You don't want a leaky spaceship. And so they had to postpone.
Yeah, no, I didn't know this. Actually, this no. So yeah, we'll find out. I also found out, I guess, that Starbucks launched their pumpkin spice latte because of Krispy Kreme launching their pumpkin spice. So
it's a war. They're escalating.
Well, it's an indicator. It's like like all the dominoes are falling.
Yeah, it's
whoever wins, we lose type situation. It's a real
war. War never changes.
How do you guys feel about pumpkin spice? Are we okay with it? I generally am I feel like, let people have it. They seem to like it. It's not hurting me.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I'm not gonna I don't understand people that can turn anything into like being sarcastically annoyed by it. But it is kind of funny because I just looked up when it comes back. It's already back. Did you know that?
Yeah, no, it was the 30th.
You get one right now.
Yeah, did we know that? Well, of course, Ezra knew that. Yeah, apparently you're not getting these great news emails.
That's wild.
I will say
this really
this moon-themed donut really just because donut's already pretty round.
Yeah,
it looks like they just put frosting on it and are like, "It's the moon, you get it."
I mean, it's a rocky type surface of frost. I don't know. I'm fine.
Yeah,
What do you expect? It's a donut.
It's a donut.
They did use the NASA font on the email. I mean, this is pretty great. I have not eaten a lot of Krispy Kreme donuts in my life. I'm not a huge fan, but I am going to subscribe to this email.
Great.
All right. Well, that's a good. Anthony, did I do it? Did I make the news, the national news about us? I think we did it.
Yeah, kind of. We got it there.
Let's keep going. That's good enough for me. That was segment 1, the news.
Yeah,
we did it.
All right, it's time for segment 2, the game. As you know, for all of season 5, we are playing Kevin Bacon's Exquisite Corpse, a game that we made up about movies that takes an entire year to play. We are just rounding the end of round 5. I think this is round 7. Oh, round 7. This is the end of round 7.
Wow.
I'm not good at math. Also, the year's just flying by. So the way this game works is that we've each pre-selected movies, and we are taking turns guiding the movie that we watch each week, going one actor to another, just like the game about Kevin Bacon that you guys all know.
And this week, Alex chose violence. That's what happened.
Ramifications of this.
To be clear, Anthony, I could have gone towards my point scoring movie, and I chose not to because you made points not real.
There were only 2 options, and this was Shrek or towards my movie, and so obviously,
I'm glad I picked this. I have not watched Shrek. A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that. Let's rewind 1 second. So that's the game. I just explained it perfectly. I've had 8 months to figure out how to explain this game to people, and the fact that I have not gotten better at it proves why this season has not taken off in a way that I had expected. So anyway, this week, exactly. This week, the donut that we watched was Shrek, the 2001 American computer animated comedy film, Oscar-winning comedy film, loosely based on the 1990 picture book of the same name by William Steig, but modified to be an obelisk of spite. It's directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jensen in their directorial debuts. This is from DreamWorks SKG. This their first thing? This was like right after they launched?
No, DreamWorks had been around for a few years,
okay.
several years.
Well, yeah, Prince of Egypt, I think was before that.
But yeah, I know they had done like Ants, Prince of Egypt, Rodel, Dorado. They've done a few different animations.
Surprising that it took this long for him to make the movie about the person he hated the most in the world.
This is the movie that certainly laid the template and track for what would later be known like as the DreamWorks house style, right? Like this is the movie that like
petty
in terms of when you think of like this sort of era of DreamWorks movies, right? It's like a lot of adult jokes mixed in with kid jokes, a lot of needle drops, a lot of topical references to things happening to the day. All that stuff that would later become sort of like I said, the DreamWorks house style for quite a while.
What is a DreamWorks?
All started here.
Anthony, what's your favorite DreamWorks animated film? What do you think is the best DreamWorks
How to Train
film?
Your Dragon, #1 with a bullet. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon is legit incredible.
And does that have the same needle drops?
No.
And no.
How to Train Your Dragon is like was kind of like them coming out of that style. I'm talking like 2001 to like 2012, 2013, like the Show Tales, a bunch of other movies I can't think of, robots, all these movies that no one remembers.
Did they do Ice Age? Is that them?
No, DreamWorks Ice Age is Fox.
Fox.
It's Blue something. What's the name of that company? I can't remember it.
I don't know. All right,
I think, right?
So Blue Sky. I'm just going to plow ahead with these names.
Yeah.
The movie's starring, as you guys know, the all-star cast of Shrek: Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and John Lithgow as the Short King. We traveled here via Eddie Murphy. This was my pick this week, so I made the Kevin Bacon move via Eddie Murphy from Bowfinger, and I picked this because there was a day on the internet. I don't know what day it was. I was off that day, apparently, and everybody on the internet agreed Shrek is the best, most important movie that's ever happened. And now we live in a world where, like, somebody wrote the entire script of Shrek on a grain of rice or whatever. Like, people just, like, super horny for Shrek. And I remember seeing it at the time and being like, well, that's kind of funny. And then I haven't thought about it since then, except that the internet is constantly talking about the greatest movie of all time, Shrek. And I just wanted to see why is everyone so horny for Shrek? And
I was watching this week. I saw that a very popular thing with the kids today is Shrek themed raves. Everyone dresses up as Shrek.
I can't tell from your tone or your content if you're lying to me. I have no idea if that's real.
No, Shrek come on. You have to believe stuff. If somebody says it's a Shrek thing, you do kind of have to believe it.
It's possible.
I saw several videos of multiple different Shrek themed raves. Just kids dropping Molly, screaming about the donkey and onions and
so here's my question: is that ironic, or do they really love this movie?
Well, I mean, I think
it's one of those. It's one of those where the answer is deep sigh. There is no. This is not a clear thing.
Alex, at this point, I don't think anyone knows whether they're being ironic about Shrek anymore or if they do like the movie. I don't even think if the question was, can you find out if I am being ironic about Shrek at all? Yeah. I don't even think that would be possible for me to find out about myself. I could be in a room alone right now and I would not be able to determine whether I honestly like Shrek or if I'm taking the piss a little bit. TBH.
It feels a little bit like that Food Fight movie, which we watched a long time ago, that like really like the bad Toy Story ripoff. I don't know how many of you were actually here for this. But there is like, okay, what's it? Maybe another example. There's like a thing where it's like, maybe it almost feels like The Room to me. I just can't tell if we are The Rooming Shrek or if we really
The Rooming Shrek
is actually like a good semi-important movie in terms of like the legacy it has, right? In terms like a lot of the stuff that's like the DreamWorks house style and things that kind of became very prevalent in animation sort of post Shrek, I think a lot of that is bad, but you have to remember, like, there wasn't movies like Shrek kind of before Shrek. You know what I mean? Like, it is a yardstick in that sense. There's like very self-referential, really leaning into like, there's always been animated movies that like adults will get something out of this too. And there's, the Pixar style, which is like, just make great fucking films that sort of work on any level.
Storytelling and character, yeah.
Yeah. And this is more, like, I mean, if anything, like, I do think
we're gonna fart in our movies. This is our house style. Disney doesn't have the heart to fart. That's our motto.
Disney, right? Like it's like
But there is like, I think this idea
bodily
of like,
functions
hey, man,
are our motto.
If you're a parent who is going to get dragged to 12 shitty kids movies this year, at least Shrek has some entertaining stuff in it for you, right? So there's like something
got a boner
nice
in it.
But I was thinking,
a parent who just came back on camera. But before we do that, I need to summarize this movie because there are people who did not read the entire grain of rice. They don't know the plot.
I'm sorry. Who is this for? Who is this summary for?
I'm going to summarize in 5 points.
Do you have any idea who that is
for? It's for people like me who did not remember most of this movie until I had to watch it. So
how do you not? I have not seen this movie in 20 years, and I literally remembered every single moment.
Yeah,
of
it was
this
in
movie.
there.
I thought so too. The first act and the last act were in there really hard, but there was a middle part that I had forgotten about. So let me give you the 5-point micro summary of the most important film of all time, Shrek. Number 1, Shrek is an ogre who does a lot of ogre-y things that are kind of gross, like picking his nose and picking his ears. It's basically
every orifice.
If you could take an 8-year-old boy making a fart sound in his armpit, and that was your character, like that was the pitch. They were like, comps for Shrek, this sound, and then that was the whole character bible for this character. That's Shrek. He's an ogre, and he is an armpit, a fart sound.
You have to also remember he's also doing the one voice Mike Myers loves to do.
Yes, doing Mike Myers' impression of Mike Myers doing an impression.
He can do a few good voices, but he has one that he fucking loves doing, and that's the impression of his Scottish mother.
It's a Scottish ogre.
Yeah.
No one else in the movie is Scottish. I don't know why he's Scottish. It's not a Scottish play. This is just an ogre. And he lives in the swamp, but then for no apparent reason, the almost king of the land decides to round up all fairy tale characters, which all live here, and they are put in cages and thrown into Shrek's front yard, which makes Shrek very angry because he's alone. The almost king then decides he needs a princess so he can become a real king and not just a literal short king. So he agrees to let Shrek have his land back, but only on the one condition that he rescues Princess Fiona from a tower. Princess Fiona, a classic princess in a tower story, surrounded by dragon. And so Shrek goes on a little road trip with his annoying fart donkey. Along the way, they kind of become friends, because it's a road trip movie. And so even though it's like,
I mean, look, what if John Candy was a farting donkey? I think that's
what if the things we liked about John Candy were not there, but the farting donkey remained?
I will let you talk a lot of shit about this movie, and I'm going to be there with you. But I will not allow you to talk shit about Eddie Murphy's vocal performance in this movie. It's legitimately.
I even wrote in my notes, I was like, all right, Eddie, you got me. You got me again, Eddie.
I think for all of Shrek's flaws or whatever's good about it, one of the things that is undeniable, I do genuinely believe Eddie Murphy gives one of the best vocal performances in an animated movie of all time. Like, he is so good in this fucking movie as Donkey. He's really dialed in. He's great.
Yeah.
Is it distinguishable actually though from his performance as like Mushu in Mulan?
No, same character.
When he was
less farting.
Okay.
I don't know. Is Mushu? I haven't seen that movie in so long. I gotta be honest. I'm not really sure I can say anything serious about Shrek. It's something that I'm finding out live on this podcast. I'm not really sure. We're gonna break it down like a normal movie. I don't know. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to
that was
do
the bit you chose, was to pretend it's a real movie, but we're not.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that. I do think Eddie Murphy was decently funny for being in this insane picture. Okay, so him and the fart donkey become friends, and then along the way they pick up Princess Fiona, and then Dragon's not very scary, and then the dragon wants to have sex with the donkey, and the donkey is first against it, but then changes his mind, and then they actually Shrek and this princess get along surprisingly well because it turns out she also expels gas from all orifices, and that's the main thing people in this movie have in common.
Yeah.
And it turns out with her, it's because she's secretly an ogre of the exact same species as Shrek, but only at night. Like the same species, they might be brother and sister at night. It's hard to tell. They have the same ears.
Oh, are you implying
Princess
that
in the
there's
day,
like
ogre at night?
Whoa! We don't even know how the ogres work in the Shrek universe.
I've not watched the further one, so I don't know. But if I were them before they get married, I'd take a blood test just to be sure.
I've seen all the Shrek movies, and I feel like they never really quite get into the genealogy of the ogres, which is like I think a great place that they could possibly go in a
parents
future
do show up in the sequel, and they're
Maybe
regular
kind of-
people.
What about kind of a Silmarillion, if you will?
Yeah,
Shrek Aurelian.
Yeah.
And then in 20 years,
Fire and
Amazon will
Blood.
do a reboot of just the early Shreks, but without Shrek.
Well, no,
kind
that's
of
the thing is
world building,
Yeah.
Like,
I
for the
agree.
Shrek stuff.
they
would be
only
good.
have the rights to Shrek and the appendices of Shrek, so they can only draw from that. They can't get into the Shrek Marillion because they don't have the rights to that.
Right.
But there's a lot of
exactly that.
stuff in
Jeffrey's
the
notes. They have a lot of
appendices, you know?
Jeffrey's notes,
Yeah, and they can pull from that.
All right. So
yeah.
anyway, then due to an off-the-shelf mishearing and failure to communicate, they don't fall in love right away, but then later they do, and they kiss, and then she stays an ogre forever, and not a human at all, and then everybody lives farty ever after. That's the movie. That's Shrek, 2001's Shrek. There were parts in the middle that I did not remember. Obviously, I remember him being like, "I'm an onion," which in hindsight is not a very interesting joke. But
was it a joke? I actually
it's even hard to describe it as a joke, but as like a thing people remember. Like they're like onions. Like
Ogres
okay.
are like onions. Yeah.
Great.
That's what I think. I think there's an aspect of this movie that has become a part of every living human person.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
I don't
so
know that we
weird,
can really
'cause it doesn't-
evaluate it
it
any
doesn't
more
feel
than
like
we
it
can evaluate
deserves that.
ourselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Really?
feel like
I
it deserves. It's not like it's
I'm
not
not,
like okay.
I'm
So
not
you know, like,
saying it deserves it. In fact, maybe it would be better if there was a different movie that had
Yes.
merged.
I
with
feel
our
like the
souls.
way people like the way Shrek exists is also sort of the way SpongeBob exists, but SpongeBob is great,
Yeah.
and that's
Well, no,
what's weird about it.
I would say the best metaphor or thing that kind of compares Shrek to is in the movie itself, and that is All Star by Smash Mouth, right? All Star by Smash Mouth is a meme in like not just like the internet version, but in like the scientifical, like the way ideas propagate thing. Like it is a meme version of Stockholm Syndrome. It is just something that's been around for so long, and we've been so conditioned to it that people just kind of like unironically like it now, and it's kind of like undeniable. But there's a few points about kind of getting to Shrek.
This is a good theory. I want to pause on that theory for 1 second before you move back to the next part, which is that I do sort of feel that way about Smash Mouth, which is like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, I don't know if I like this or not, but it's been around for a long time in my head.
Right. And do you really like, let's say, it's one of those things where it's like when Smash Mouth isn't in the room with us, you know what I mean? We'll say whatever we want about it. That it sucks, that it's stupid, that it's bad. But then when it's there with you, you know what I mean? It's kind of, are you really are you gonna talk shit when it's there?
But
like,
if you were like, you know what band
it?
I love is Smash Mouth, I'd be like, what? Like that does like it doesn't even like that's not even a band you could like. It doesn't. It's not in the same universe. But it's like when it's happening, I'm like, oh yeah.
We
But at the same time, no, you're right. You're right. If I met someone and they said I love Smash Mouth and that's all I like, I would be like, whoa, I'm a little freaked out. But
can you blink if you need help?
Same person, All Star is playing, and they're just like, this song totally owns. I would be like, yeah, it does. The song rules.
It does. Yeah,
So
but not
good.
like but not in the
good.
way that other music does. That's
Okay,
what
so
he's
that's the
saying.
interesting thing about this then, right? So like we all, I think, I'm pretty sure when most people saw this, right, they probably enjoyed it on some level, right? And I know for myself, like a lot of the MP3s I had off of Napster were absolutely from the soundtrack, among other things. But this is I remember like this is how I knew about Hallelujah. This is definitely I think Monkeys I got from this as well. But yeah, so
Tom Waits is in the sequel. It's how I remember one of the first times I ever heard Tom Waits was in Shrek 2. I don't know. I think it's a song he wrote for the movie. I'm not positive.
I mean, this is definitely not the good version of Hallelujah, but yeah, one of the best songs ever written, and also one of the songs that's most badly covered of any song ever written.
It's interesting because the one it's in the movie is not actually the one that was on the soundtrack. So I knew the soundtrack one, which is the Rufus Wainwright.
Rufus
That's how I got
Wainwright
used to it.
version.
Yeah.
I actually like the John Cale version better than the Rufus Wainwright version, although obviously it's not the best version of the song. Which, of course, is the Jeff Buckley version.
Look, I should add, just for disclosure, in case like my mom shows up in the comments on YouTube, Smash Mouth was one of the first CDs I owned. I bought a Smash Mouth CD.
See?
But it was before this. It was Walking on the Sun. Smash Mouth.
That was Walking on the Sun, right?
Will be.
I remember that music
on
video. In that music video, they get in a car crash and then they're landed like all sprawled on the street, but the drummer is still drumming that beat with his one hand while laying dead. And I liked that as a child when I saw it on MTV at a friend's house.
So maybe the fun thing then about Shrek is like, okay, so this was like cultural impact, at the moment. We like it. And then we later were like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not supposed to like this. Maybe this is actually like played out and stupid. And then, I don't care really how we get back some things. But if you can like anything again that you liked at one point, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe even it's all like mixed up with irony or whatever it is, like I'm still okay with that.
I would.
Well,
so
if
Shrek came out today, I would say Shrek is the worst movie I've ever seen. But if I saw Shrek when I was 10 and then I watched it again now, I would be like, I have no idea how I feel, but I understand why other people want to talk about it.
I don't think you'd be able to say that it was the worst movie you've ever
it's
seen.
Not. But there's a lot. I mean, look, if I was a 10-year-old boy, farting donkeys, funniest thing I could imagine. As an adult, the fourth time they did a joke that was like, we swore we're going to swear, but then we took the word out. I'm like, I don't think this is a well-written product.
Can I give two sort of theories about why I think Shrek has sort of had the legacy it has? I think, one, this is probably the first piece of like meta postmodern art most people are introduced to, right? In terms of children, in terms of like, especially in a very postmodern society that we live in now, in a very meta society where everything is self-referential, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the first thing that laid the groundwork for that, right? I do think that there is like something important there, that this is a lot of people's sort of foundation for postmodernism, just as a concept and how it influences art and stuff. And secondly, I think that something I was thinking about watching this last night, I think as the world has become more and more owned by Disney, right? As Disney's media and properties become more and more everything and like become interweaved with society, and they just keep remaking stuff and repackaging stuff. The sense that Shrek is essentially a giant middle finger to Disney.
It's a hit piece
it's
on
a
Disney,
shot across the bow, right? Of Disney, not just saying like, we're here, we can also make big animated movies. But I mean, the fact that like within the DNA of this movie is someone who is very, very unhappy at Disney, right? Jeffrey Katzenberg's three most like biggest pieces of his legacy are going to be: he's the man who tried to cut part of our world from Little Mermaid because he thought the song sucked. Shrek, and he gave us Quibbies, right?
And Quibi,
those are like the three things he's kind of going to be remembered for. But this is the one that is like all of his time in Disney, all of his resentment of, him thinking he's the smartest man in the room and the most important man, and no one listening to his ideas, and everyone telling him he's an idiot. And no, this is a good music. It's staying in the movie. And this is his chance to just be like, look, I'm a genius. There's wrestling references in this,
Right. They
so
did the
I do think
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as in terms of just like, especially as everything becomes more and more Disney-fied, literally. I think this, because it's a big middle finger to Disney.
I think this is a great point, and I think it also kind of adds to this theme that we've had in the last few months, because we just watched Bowfinger, which is like also about struggling through Hollywood, and then we also watched Iron Giant, which is about somebody leaving Disney and trying to do genius work without them. Although he got sucked back in, he got taken back by it. But it's an interesting piece to add to that constellation of what's going on in Hollywood around Disney. Let's get though to the thing we've been sitting on the longest, the thing we all, I think, desperately want to know, which is that, Ezra, you have a boy child about the right age where I feel like if I showed your son that I could make a farting noise with my armpit, it would amuse him, maybe even impress him. Did you watch this movie with your kids? And if so, how did they feel about it?
Okay, so this is good. So I couldn't watch it with my son because just the timing of it did not work out. He, I believe, has seen it. I don't think it made much of an impression. I think he has seen it.
Oh, he didn't get the Matrix reference? That was everywhere. Legally, remember when they passed that law from like 1999 to 2004 when everything had to have a Matrix bullet cam reference in it?
It's kind of annoying, but also it's like it really does reinforce just like what an incredible thing that bullet time camera effect was. That it got that law passed. You know, it was that good of an effect that it required that kind of a law. Yeah,
can't do bullet control, but.
Yeah, I would love to hear a kid's, because I was watching this last night. I remember, like, I haven't seen this movie, like I said, probably close to like 15, 20 years. But like in my head, I remember seeing Shrek and thinking like, well, we've reached the mountaintop in terms of visual effects. Movies can't look better than this, right?
Boy, did this animation not age well. Oof.
I mean, the characters literally look green screened in to certain scenes, which I know is not a thing.
Looked like they drew a corpse the whole time. She was very corpsey in her animation style. It was awful looking. It looked like the way when you're like, there's like those news Korean animation reproductions of a news story. It looked like that. It looked like somebody made this movie in an hour, and I'm sure it was hard, but it doesn't look hard. You don't see the work in it.
Yeah, I mean,
well, luckily, I mean, the fact that it's a comedy. The fact that it's a comedy means that I think I kind of like the way that it looks. To be honest, I actually think the way that it looks sort of enhances that aspect of it, that kind of can't put your finger on it cultural magnitude of Shrek has to do with it looking kind of just really sort of bad in like kind of many ways.
And it's funny that the way things get better, like, so Shrek like has kind of like a baseline competent in terms of like computers were able to do some pretty interesting things in 2001. But like the biggest difference between now and then, besides like lighting or like texture work, it's like room density, right? Like every room is the absolute bare minimum of items that they have to put in the room to make it look like a room in Shrek, right? It's usually like a table and a mirror, and that's it. Because everything else would be impossible and would have melted the computers if they tried to pay more. But you look at like an animated movie now, and all the rooms are like super detailed and have a million posters and trinkets and desks, junk on the floor.
And the lighting is really like
completely sterile.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, because like if you go back and watch the original Toy Story, there are portions of it that look good, and then you see the children, and you're like, wow. Oof.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So this movie, by trying to do humanoid like Donkey looks fine. I don't care about but like Princess Fiona looks weird because they couldn't draw people yet.
Honestly, Shrek looks weird to me. Shrek
Shrek does look bad too, and he's not
really
weird. He's humanoid enough that he looks terrible.
The skin is tough.
His face looks weird all the time.
Have you ever seen the original design for Shrek back when like?
Yeah,
but we're gonna get Anthony. I'm gonna get a sound effect one day for this. I don't have it yet, but it's gonna be. I can hear for your tone. So, guys, welcome to Tony's Story Corner. All right, tell me about the original design of Shrek. I don't know.
I mean, they just released, or somehow it leaked like an early test thing for Shrek. So, like, this movie had a long production history, as I'm sure some of you guys might know.
Oh no!
Originally,
I just looked at it. I like it.
But
I originally, but that sound is great.
Originally this movie wasn't going to be animated. It was going to be like sort of stop animation-esque, but like with real backgrounds, and they were going to motion capture characters in. Originally Chris Farley was cast as Shrek. And he recorded almost the entire movie, but then passed away. So they scrapped his entire version. Mike Myers was brought on. He recorded it not in the Scottish voice, and then they ended up deciding to go. But he like called Jeffrey Katzenberg one night and was like, "I got an idea.
Scottish.
We record all of it."
Mike Myers acting like making him Scottish as an idea is hilarious. Guys, I've got
what I can do.
But yeah, I mean, if you do look up the original artwork for Shrek, he was so much less visually appealing than he is now, especially Chris Farley Shrek.
So he does look awful, but on the other hand, stop motion in general has aged a lot better because it was as good as it's going to be for the most part. There's better green screen on stop motion. Like modern Leica stop motion was beautiful, but like you still have like a pretty similar. If the models look good and you take the same number of frames, it's going to be pretty similar.
It wasn't going to be stop animation. The backgrounds were going to be like stop animation. The characters were going to be motion captured in the scene.
I forgot you said that. That's gross. Yeah, I hate.
But yeah, Shrek with hair that I don't like either, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ugh.
But yeah, they definitely
got
him to a much more visually appealing version.
And it's still so awful.
But
okay,
can I tell you guys what I did?
We still didn't get to Ezra's point, but we'll finish up in Tony's story corner, and then we'll come back to Ezra's kids.
No, let's do Ezra's kid first. Then I gotta tell you guys. I gotta tell you what I did last night, so we can really talk about Shrek.
I can't wait.
Okay, so then yesterday though, my youngest is home from school. She's sick, and I was like, hey, there's a movie that's kind of good that we could watch. Would you be interested? And she's like, what's it about? And so I said, like, okay, so there's a donkey who can talk, and he's friends with an ogre, and it's like the ogre's first friend, and they have to go rescue a princess from a dragon, and the dragon seems mean, but then the dragon becomes nice later. And she's like, I'm not interested. It's like, why? It's like, she says, because I don't like that the dragon becomes nice later. She's like,
she wanted the dragon to stay mean.
Yeah, she didn't like. Yeah, she didn't like that it was like going to be a reversal. That was what she picked out.
So did you?
Reason.
Okay, so partially this like I don't know if I entirely agree with your description of the dragon because the dragon becomes sexually aggressive.
Only perfect summary that's ever happened on this show, I think.
And I don't think I think if I was giving the summary, I would mention the dragon became sexually very aggressive.
Right.
Then it's only through giving up his body for safety does the donkey bring in the dragon to their team.
You'd be saying this to a 4.5-year-old.
And I don't think she'd get what I'm saying, but it's funny. It would make the adults laugh.
Oh, that's what's for them.
This is what we call the Alex Falcone house style.
Okay, lots of farts.
Yeah. Anyway, so she didn't watch. So you see, we got no kid opinions at all. All right. Well, we dragged this out.
We're still watching content.
Well, that's good to hear. All right, Anthony, what did you put yourself through to make yourself an expert for this? Did you watch the other Shrek movies?
No, I did not watch. I have seen, I believe, many. I watched the trailers for all the Shrek sequels.
Smart. That seems like enough.
Just to kind of get a refresher on them.
Yeah.
And to see how the visual quality grew. And I do love that by the fourth one, a series is fucking out of ideas and it's taking as far as you can. When your fourth movie is Shrek goes into an alternate universe where the events of Shrek didn't happen and all the characters are different. That is where you have completely lost the thread on how far you can take an idea.
That's giving up.
Let me tell you what I did last night. Last night I watched Shrek with my wife. Then we watched all the Shrek trailers for 2 through 4.
Then you put on a sexy donkey costume that you got for Halloween.
Ooh, here we go.
No, I should have done that instead. But what I did instead was last night, kind of just doing my research on Shrek, I discovered that on Netflix, there is a pro shot of Shrek the Musical live on Broadway.
Oh my God.
Oh, I watched Shrek, watched about 30 minutes of trailers, and then I watched a 2.5-hour pro shot of Shrek the Musical live on Broadway.
So I'm fascinated to find out how you feel about this, because even if a thing is not very good, Broadway shows go through a lot, and a lot of the time are better than you'd expect for the premise. So was it good?
No. But here's what I will say. I have never seen a show compensate more for the lack of quality with production value than Shrek the Musical live on Broadway. It is
love it.
The most expensive looking musical I have ever seen. I've seen a lot of good musical in my life. I've never seen like any of like the big Disney ones, which I imagine would be the closest equivalent, sort of like The Lion King or something like that.
Yeah,
but this has a massive ensemble. I originally assumed it was going to be a jukebox musical in which they just sing the songs that are in Shrek.
Yeah,
but that is not what it is.
Style, so it's like hey, now you're an all-star.
all-star, yeah.
Come on, get your game on. Like that. And then
they don't do any of the songs from Shrek except for I'm a Believer at the end. That's like the big
Sure, you have to,
bow,
how are you
take
gonna
it at
close
the bow.
the movie?
But yeah, it's 40 minutes longer than the actual movie Shrek.
Hilarious.
It is
Found a lot of gold in there.
Yeah,
one of
they
the
really it stretched those moments out so you could really feel them.
Yeah.
That's one criticism I have of Shrek is that it doesn't expand on every moment. That
it is a little short. Yeah, I think it definitely skips over some things.
Have you seen how Shrek looks live on stage? Like the costume for Shrek?
It's Google number 3 that I'm going to regret.
It's a weird situation, right?
No, it's a giant mask with green paint. Donkey is just the guy in a donkey suit with hooves. The most impressive performer. Well, okay, so in the musical, Sutton Foster, who is like a Broadway legend and like one of the best dancers and singers and like a very, very great female comedic performer. She's incredible. She plays Fiona. She is the highlight of the show, without a doubt. She has some phenomenal sequences in it.
I do kind of like this. I mean, this is the thing about Broadway is that like I do kind of like the look of all this. I like Shrek's look, actually. I think it's cool, and I like Donkey, and this is a good-looking musical for the source material.
Yeah, the most impressive thing, one, would either be the giant dragon puppet, which is pretty neat.
Oh,
they
cool.
Have a giant puppet for a dragon. And Lord Farquaad is played by a grown man who's on his knees the entire time with fake legs covering his knees.
Yeah,
and he does incredible dancing, does like running around. It's doing the most crazy shit I have ever seen somebody on their knees doing. It's actually pretty impressive.
You have, just so you know, Anthony, you have 100% sold me on watching this.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to watch this.
The music's not great. Some of the performances are like I said, they're just so overcompensating.
Oh my god,
for the lack of quality.
Insane. Oh, that's so good.
That they have just all the stuff. There's a this came out in 2008, which is way too late for a very, very distasteful trans joke in the second song from the wolf in the grandma's dress, as you can imagine. They make a trans joke. It's great.
No, but it does feel like it's part of the house style.
Yeah, it's
Shrek,
basically the
same. It doesn't seem like they're above it.
I actually expected the movie to be more problematic than it was. I was like, there's going to be stuff.
Well, no, that's the thing is if your jokes are about farts, then you don't have to be.
Yeah, then I guess
worst stuff is the donkey dragon stuff.
Yeah, the donkey dragon stuff is problematic.
That was definitely the worst example. Yeah.
Although Donkey actually had a couple of, he did say talk about this being like non-consensual touching. And Donkey had a thing about how he's going to need to go to therapy after all this, which both of those are very progressive and important things to talk about.
Yeah, especially for that type of scene in a comedy movie.
Yeah, you don't normally get that. Really good. Yeah.
I do have my main criticism actually of the morality of this movie is that the theme, the message of Shrek, I think, is mostly about inner beauty, and that it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside.
Doesn't matter what you look like.
Unless you're a short man. If you are a man who's under 5'8", you are ugly and need to die, according to Shrek. Shrek hates you.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of short kings was not yet prevalent at this time, where he was literally a short king, and everyone is like, "Oh, but obviously you're the ogres are like, I can't believe this man is 5'4". What a disgusting human being. We should be compensated for having to look at this short human man."
I think the morality of movies like this is normally I think there's a million movies that have this problem of if you don't like someone though, then you know, if they're mean or bad or whatever, then it doesn't really matter what logic you're using, man, you know?
Yeah, and he isn't as bad as they don't do much work to make him bad. That's even if you were going to make that argument, is bad, and that argument that you were doing in quotes is also the way that you get with stories like Harry Potter, where it's this kid is overweight and thus he is evil. But this was we didn't bother to do it that much work about making Lord Farquaad that evil. His place seems nice. His castle is too big. He does move a lot of Pinocchios into a camp, but that seems like kind of random.
Well,
And it's his
he's also torturing the gingerbread
The
man.
gingerbread man.
He does a little bit of torture on a cookie. I mean, it's not great.
Good.
It's not great, but if they were like, man, he's 5'10" and hot, and they just never mentioned his shortness, it would be like, well, it's kind of a okay king.
Well,
But
no,
they like
you have to
hate him for being
remember-
short more than they hate him for the torture.
No, you have to keep in mind, attendance at Disney. I mean, his kingdom fell 30% under his reign. So that's really the greatest crime he could have ever done.
It's funny, but it is just so weird to then make your message like inner beauty is what matters. Like that just felt
Right.
it felt so strange how much
A little flaw there, yeah.
hate short people.
Yeah.
The other well, okay, I do want to give a couple now. This is where the part of the show where I like to give a few of my tiny compliments, my specific Alexis awards for very small moments that I thought rose above the rest of the movie. There are a couple of jokes in this that really did hold up to me. When he offers her, he blows a frog up like a balloon, and so she blows a snake up and turns it into a balloon animal. Pretty good visual gag. I also like there's a visual gag where her singing explodes a bird, which is weird, but then they like zoom in on her eggs, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a sentimental moment about how she killed these eggs as mom, and instead they do a match cut to her making fried eggs for breakfast, and it's so weirdly emotionless about it that that got me a little bit. And then I also did think Eddie Murphy's performance we saw. There were a couple of I didn't write all of them down, so I don't remember them. But there were a couple of very good line readings from Eddie Murphy, as far as the John Candy style of being the annoying friend. But like he had some good moments. I also like the visual gag of them throwing of the ogre throwing him up to a very tall window to see what was going on in the wedding.
Oh yeah,
that was a very fun. Like he just sees a moment and then not, and then a moment and then not. It's very good. Yeah. I also like the performance of the mirror, the magic mirror, who has a lot of character, which is like not true of the original Disney magic mirror. This mirror is like, well, but actually you might. Oh, okay, but if I get okay, no, we're good.
The magic mirror was funny. Yeah,
it was funny. So those are my Alexis for this movie.
Yeah.
And my complaints all at once. Does anybody have any final thoughts on Shrek before we move on? I feel like we've pretty much covered it. I think Shrek's...
I got some. I got a weird thing I want to say. Have y'all ever read any of those 33 and a Third books? Are you familiar with this series of books? They're music books, generally written by music journalists, and they will be written about a particular album, like a series. They're pretty good. There's one in particular that's very, very good about a Celine Dion album, and it's called Celine Dion's Let's Talk About Love, A Journey to the End of Taste. And I got $1 million idea here. This book, I love this book, by the way. It's like one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's very seriously about Celine Dion, but it is also about, like, essentially Shrek, I would say. It's sort of about Shrek. Because it's about, like, what we like in culture and what we hate in culture, and how certain, like, Celine Dion is very much like the Shrek of the 90s to me, where she operated in this place of, like, actually being hugely popular, and if you just wrote down her qualities on a sheet of paper, it would sound like, oh, this singer has it all. But it was very easy to make fun of Celine Dion and hate on Celine Dion, but yet her cultural power kind of like shone through regardless. And that is what this particular book is about. And if I were to write a book about any film,
it would be called Shrek, Journey to the End of Taste.
And it would be essentially that book, but about Shrek instead. Because I think Shrek, and I'm fascinated by culture stuff like this, where it is bad, but it just kind of defies taste. I think that Shrek has that power. And as much as, you can be an adult and be like, oh, well, this is like bad or lame for X reasons, there's just something about it that when you look at it, it just doesn't, my brain ceases to function, basically.
I think that's exactly, I do think it exists outside of taste. I think the timing is really interesting. And I think part of the thing about this, and the reason why this show is, like this episode, is me going, why is everyone horny for Shrek? Is because we are all 2 years too old. Right. This came out when we were in late high school. If this had come out when I was in middle school, I think I would have a very different relationship with it. And my guess is if we had people who were like 10 years older than us on the podcast this week, they'd be like, what do you mean everyone's obsessed with Shrek? Like they wouldn't even hear it because they're just like their cultural world is just slightly too old, but not old enough to lose your kids. That'd be my
I disagree on 2 counts. First of all, I'm younger than y'all old farts.
Yeah.
And I was in middle school when this came out.
Also was
party old people.
I was about to be a freshman in high school when this movie came out. So I was also.
I mean, okay, so you're within a couple years, but I mean, maybe 2 years earlier you would have had more of it. Like maybe it was when you were if you were in 5th grade, this would have had the bigger impact.
No. Shrek time, guys.
No, I think it's people who grew up and Shrek always existed, right?
About Shrek, and they love the Shrek. Okay?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between
what you're saying is there's like a pre-Shrek world and there's a post-Shrek world that all happened around September of 2001.
Listen, in 2001, some very important cultural things happened that changed the world forever.
Yeah.
Mostly Shrek in 2001.
Yes, that was the main thing about 2001 that threw everything off.
Yeah.
I remember before Shrek, you could just go right to the gate to greet people when they're visiting you. That was fun.
It was around Shrek when all the airport rules changed. That is actually
why everyone was like, after this ogre's journey, no more liquids. We're done with liquids.
I never understood why we went to war in Iraq when it was like DreamWorks that made Shrek.
It was Katzenberg who did this.
It was because I can't help but I cannot not say it. But Bush did Shrek. Okay, Bush did Shrek, and
Bush did not. This is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
Bush totally did Shrek.
Like he didn't do anything to stop Shrek, but like with clear evidence that Shrek was about to happen. But that's not the same thing. He didn't.
Look, he knew about Shrek, dude. He knew about Shrek. They had files. The CIA knew about Shrek. They were going to kill Shrek.
I did read about that one chartered flight where they got a bunch of DreamWorks executives out of the country in the first 12 hours after Shrek came out, just so they wouldn't be in any danger.
You guys ever seen that episode of Lone Gunmen that came out like a year before when they went to go see Shrek? You know?
Yeah.
It's fucking weird. It makes you think.
One thing I think not enough people talk about is that that Dragon's fire is not hot enough to melt steel. I don't think that comes up often enough.
It's true.
Well, people don't understand
what popular mechanics might say in their debunking of Shrek.
Yeah, what people don't understand is that the dragon's fire would actually, move through the elevator shafts. And Shrek was built with like 1970s New York construction, so it was a lot of like dirty mob stuff, and stuff wasn't actually being built to code. So, like, technically Shrek was supposed to be able to take a hit from a plane, but not a plane that large. And two, the construction quality, like I said, it's just a lot of the Shrek stuff that was supposed to be in Shrek actually went to the mob's pockets. That's the thing people actually don't know about the construction of Shrek.
This segment.
I think we've extinguished the internet's horniness for Shrek by linking it to
to what? Well, I was just talking about Shrek.
Right, to itself then. To itself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only ever about Shrek.
I feel like that's a satisfactory ending to this segment. I do think we should wrap it on that. We've nailed it. Yeah. It's done. Yeah. But we have to do some work now, because now it is time for the season 5 list of master quality, where we've ranked every movie in order, official order of the best films of all time.
Oh God!
Where are we going to put Shrek from 2001 on this list?
Do we have to rank Shrek?
We have to
rank
Shrek.
You're going to make me rank Shrek.
I like that you're upset about this. This was your segment idea.
Yeah.
This is your pick.
No. You did this to yourself, Hunter.
You did.
Whoa. I did not do this. I did not
you didn't
come
make
up
me
with
pick this movie, but you were the one who wanted a master quality list for season 5.
No. That's not me at all. That was Anthony that came up with that.
Me. I love this. I love ranking Shrek.
Okay, great. Anthony, you got to rank Shrek for us. Where are you going to put this? I will start the bidding by saying I think this is probably, we can all agree, worse than Apollo 13.
Better than Apollo 13, absolutely.
I'll give you this. Finally, Alex, we found a movie I can say it's definitely worse than Apollo 13.
What would you like, Anthony? What chunk would you like read back to you?
I don't need them. I've said a lot of positive things about Shrek this episode, but I'm gonna put this one. I think this is gonna, for me, I think I actually like Transformers the movie more than I like Shrek, and I kind of like Shrek. But I think
you're saying
I think
28
as a
with
meme,
a bullet.
As a meme, I think for the memes, for the lols, all right, we should put Shrek as the worst movie on this list.
Yeah, I'll say this right before we started this episode, I looked up Shrek on Letterboxd to see what my friends had ranked Shrek.
I did that too.
Those of my
that was
friends
actually really
that had ranked
interesting.
Shrek. And actually, oh no, I think I'm actually going to talk some smack on you accidentally, Alex,
That's
but
fine.
it's not on purpose. It's just a bit that I'm going to do, which is that I think if you give Shrek 3 stars, I just don't understand you at all. And all my friends, Alex, not just you, all
No, I
my
know.
friends that I
I
follow
get-
had
I-
all
so-
given Shrek 3
I-
stars. And you make me feel insane. I can understand 5 stars and I can understand a half star. That's all I understand for Shrek.
No. Okay, this is not. You're not talking shit because you just misunderstand how star systems work. So
I guess so.
there are 5-star things. There are half-star experiences. 3 stars means I do not understand how to rank this thing. Whatever you're doing, 3 is just the coward's way out. I have to put something, but I do not know how I feel.
But you nailed it. You nailed it. I think that specifically with Shrek, yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that with everything if you want to. That 3 stars is always cowardly. I don't think it's always cowardly, but I think with Shrek, it is cowardly. I think you should either think Shrek is the best. I think it could be, or that it's the worst. Which I think it could be.
Yeah. I was, at least with me, if I have to do something out of 5, if I say 3, it's panic. That's because it was like, oh, you can't leave this blank? 3. That's how I feel generally on my movie rankings. Or it's like, this is like above and beyond and also below ranking. And that's how I feel with this Defies ranking.
I kind of feel like a horse. A list. If we put Shrek at the end, it kind of turns it from a straight line to a horseshoe almost, and that's what I thought. Transformers was already sort of leaning it there. And I do think that I like the idea of Shrek as like a magnetic pole that is going to bend our list around.
Yes.
So that this way it's not just like the worst movie, but it's like there's some really good, really bad movies at the end of our list. And I think that's why my argument for why Shrek deserves to be there.
So I'll say there's 3 things we can do here strategically. Strategically, we have 3 options. We could put Shrek somewhere in the middle, the most boring option. Okay. Right. Frightening. Scary. Like if
that's
I saw
a really
that,
weird option too, to be like, I think it's better than the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, but it's not quite as good as Battleship Potemkin. Like, what a weird conversation to have about
that's
Shrek.
Like the freak zone, and I have no respect for it. Okay, we could put it at the bottom. Okay, understandable. It's real, it's raw, but also it makes me feel a little bit like I see that. You know, I find this podcast, I see that instantly. I'm going to want to be nice to Shrek. You know what I mean? You're going to make me want to be nice to Shrek. Yeah, totally. You put Shrek number 1. And I want to listen to that podcast. You know what I mean? This podcast ranked Shrek. And it's funny because it would be Shrek above The Third Man, a movie starring Orson Welles, one of the most important cinematic figures who's ever lived.
Also 3 positions above Lion King.
Yeah. So,
also got a musical about it.
But the thing about trying to get it to be number 1, we'd have to all be unanimous.
Right, but Anthony's already staked out a place. So if you go number 1, we're going to end up with it being like, this is a little bit worse than Michael Clayton.
In the interest of it, it can't be that. It's either going at the top, the most interesting option, or the bottom, the second most interesting option.
So which is your vote?
I vote bottom, because we have to all be together on this, all right?
Yeah.
Do not mess this up.
I think you're right. And before Ezra has a chance, I'll let Ezra have a chance to run it, because I think
Hunter somehow is going to end up 1 before in the cut with these.
I will die.
Making the list. I give it to you.
I will say I love this. I think you're exactly right, Hunter. I agree with all of your analysis, with the one exception that I cannot, in good conscience, put this movie as being worse than The Transformers the movie, because I just
watched it wrong. You watched it at normal speed. You didn't watch it right.
Time with it. I had such a bad time.
You should have watched it on triple speed. I told you.
I know. How many times have I don't totally understand what the results of this will be, but I am giving this worse than a girl with character, but better than The Transformers the movie. So we have 2 votes, 27.5, and 1 vote of 26.5. Ezra, what happens now? You know the math.
What's the bottom 5? Can you tell me again?
Yeah, so 27, The Transformers the movie. 26, A Girl with Character. Soylent Green, PJ, Avengers Endgame. And I will say, again, Soylent Green has really appreciated my mind, and now I feel bad for it being down there.
Again, also, the horseshoe! The horseshoe!
It's a good point. It's a good point. A Girl with Character we also watched not in English, so we didn't know what it was about.
Yeah. Avengers Endgame's a great movie. It brings it around. I like this idea.
Okay, Here's my pitch. I think I'm going to do it 1 above Soylent Green, because I want all the Green movies to be together. And I think this has a bigger cultural impact.
Why not put it up below it?
Because it's better.
Want all the green movies to be
Didn't
together.
interest me too. Hallelujah.
This is what's
Wait,
great
are there
about this
other-
list is it represents several vastly different worldviews.
Okay.
Like we did not agree on.
Worldviews. Is Shrek the 27th, the 26th, or the 25th worst movie?
Well, I guess I mean like the
Vastly
game that we're playing.
worldviews.
Well, so here's what's interesting is Ezra's vote. So my vote would not have been enough to move it above the Transformers the movie.
Right.
If it was 3 bottoms and mine second from bottom, average is the bottom. But by putting it that far up, Ezra has made the final score 26.5, which means Shrek from 2001 is now the second worst movie of season 5, just ahead of Transformers, the Transformers the movie, but just below A Girl with Character, which again we did not understand a single word of.
It was actually pretty awesome. I think that at this rate, I'm gonna lobby that we watch the Transformers movie again.
Oh, I was wondering if we could redo a thing.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
might be
So
a
we
thing
should,
at the end of the season where we have to do a review and see
and
if
this
we can
time you
re-rank
have
it.
to watch it on triple speed. All right, I
I
promise
think-
you'll like it better.
I think what we should do is sync up Shrek and Transformers the movie and watch them
Yes.
simultaneously.
Oh, I'll
Listen
make
to
a
some
special
Pink
see
Floyd
cut.
album.
see where
I'll
they
do a
match
cut
up.
of
We
it.
listen to the
Yeah.
I'll do some
entire.
editing.
I think actually my recommendation is we just listen to the entire Smash Mouth best of CD. We
Oh
can
my
sync that with
God,
any movie
yes.
you want. We can do that behind A Girl with Character, but we listen to Smash Mouth the whole time. We have one
Yeah.
order of business left to do to round out week 7 or month 7 or round 7. Hunter is your
Ooh.
pick this week. You
Yeah.
get to
You got a
move.
lot
This is
of
the
good
last
places
non-scoring
from
week.
this one.
And you have this interesting position that we've seen before, which is where you might be drawn randomly to be first next week. Plus, next week we also get a new set of power cards. So if you have the ability to put yourself in an interesting position for later, could come up, or you could strike a deal. So what are you going to do? How are we going to move from Shrek?
Well, I have 2 options, and neither of them are really great. One is that we travel via Kathleen Freeman to a movie called Chances Are, which is just some random like 80s rom-com with Robert Downey Jr. in it. And then from RDJ, we can get into some Wong Kar-wai stuff, and then eventually it's like a couple movies off.
Because of your pick, your every move is like, this sets me up perfectly for a 7-move checkmate.
It's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. It's like, what's nice is if I can just get through, like if I get the next move, then I'll basically lock it in where y'all won't have any choice but to give me what I want, basically.
Okay.
So that's
Never
the thing.
true.
Is if I get
It's never true
the
for sure, but I like the idea. No, I like your confidence.
at least I'll say this: if I get the next pick, then we will be pretty much locked into watching Hong Kong films. So it's either you can give me what I want, or we can just watch a bunch of great Hong Kong movies, which would be awesome as far as I'm
Which is also
concerned.
fine. So what is option 2 then? If we don't watch Chances Are,
I feel
Option
like
2 is we
Vincent
watch The
Cassell-
Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars or whatever.
a Brave Little Toaster sequel.
Yeah, a Brave Little Toaster sequel. And it's because that movie is a faster route to Hero, which, of course, if we get to Hero, then we get to my movie as well. So it's hard for me to really kind of decide. I don't really want to watch this Chances Are movie.
I don't really want to watch
mean-
either of these. What's the move to go to Brave Little Toaster?
Jim Cummings.
It's through Jim Cummings.
Jim Cummings.
Can
Brave-
I make an argument here?
Yeah,
In
argue.
case?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Be Austin Powers.
points
right.
aren't on the board. I can't get you to Chinese cinema. I can't get you
Sure.
to the continent of Asia. But with Vincent Cassell, who's in this movie, we can get to France, which is like halfway between here and
True.
Asia.
That's true.
Yeah,
And
I think definitely a lot of collabs between
If
those two.
I was choosing
industries.
right now,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah, go
after
ahead.
someone like Alex made us watch Shrek,
Okay.
I would try to pay back violence with violence.
Oh,
Of
no.
course
And
you would.
pretty much, I say, I'm just suggesting.
yeah, throw
Wouldn't
the
it be
suggestion.
something if you took us to Vincent Cassell to Gasper's Nose Irreversible
No,
and made us
No.
do that?
I don't know what it is, but your no
No.
is very interesting to me.
Absolutely not.
What does that mean?
No
Why would I hate that?
way.
You would not enjoy it, or you really
I've already
would enjoy it. I
seen this
wouldn't know.
movie, and I will let you know the way this movie works is, yeah, sure, maybe you watch it once. We all went to college or whatever. You watch this movie one time, and one thing you will say, I guarantee it, is that you'll say something out loud like, I will never watch this movie again. And I said that, and I meant it, and I will never, ever watch that movie again. So we could do it, but I just won't be watching it, and that would make me feel guilty. I think I'm going to play the game, and we're going to watch this random rom-com, because to me, that's the flavor that I'm feeling, because it gets me closer. So we're going to travel via, who was it? I don't even remember. I didn't even actually look. Kathleen Freeman, to a Robert Downey Jr. rom-com that's very random. I have no idea if it's good. It's probably bad. Called Chances Are.
From 1989. Chances Are. It's also got Sybil Shepherd, and it's got Shooter McGavin. It's got Christopher McDonald. I was like that.
And I guarantee you guys, this is better than
Wait. Do you guarantee?
I guarantee.
It looks like probably it's not very good.
It looks quite bad.
The brief, but I do like I like a rom-com. I think that's fun. I'm excited to pop over. Roger Ebert did not care for it. It looks like.
Good.
But,
sounds awesome. Just gonna watch some crappy.
Oh no, actually, no, I was wrong. I clicked on the wrong thing. He gave it 3.5 stars. I don't know how many it's out of, but that's something.
Hey, maybe it's good. It might be good. I don't know.
Maybe it's half a star better than Shrek.
Ooh, yeah. That's the thing, is we need to start filling out the bottom. It's been like way too many good movies lately. I think that's a real shame.
All right. Well, next we'll
wait
do
a
it.
second. Can I read you guys a plot summary real quick?
Oh no!
Yes,
what is it?
A reincarnated man unknowingly falls in love with his own daughter from his previous life.
Oh my God! No!
Whoa!
Are you serious?
This might have been a more interesting pick than you realized.
You got past life old boy. Good job.
Great. Fantastic. That's great. Yeah.
That is my favorite category of porn on Pornhub. So I'm very excited.
Look, I don't like incest, but I'll do any reincarnation.
Incest. I want like a layer of abstraction. There's too much just direct incest on Pornhub these days.
I do. I've frequently searched for resurrection as well. I think that's on there. It's got erection in it. It makes perfect sense.
Wow. Thank you for this.
Here we go.
This is a wild journey. This is the thing about Read and Weep for me, has always been about discovery. It's about learning. And so we have a learning experience next week. We're watching 1989's Chances Are, starring Kathleen Freeman, or at least involving her.
Ryan O'Neal and Sybil Shepherd. Hell yeah.
That's what I said. Can't wait. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We'll be back again next week. Next week, we're talking about Chances Are. I almost forgot it already. Who cares? But it's going to be an interesting journey, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts. Please send us an email, podcast@read-weep.com. I would love to hear about it, your thoughts about this. If I missed anything about Shrek, we might not have covered the whole movie. If there's any thoughts you have on Shrek that we need to encourage, and we need to put out there in the world, please send us an email, podcast@read-weep.com. We also appreciate all of our meat buddies, including those who forgot they were supporting the show. So, and apparently I learned from that also that if you support the show and then I send you a message on Patreon, it doesn't necessarily email you. For some people, it doesn't email them. And that's why several people have signed up to support the show and did not get a thank you segment. If you did not get a thank you segment, that's because I sent you a message on Patreon. But if you don't remember if you're supporting us or not, it's none of your business. Keep it a secret. Don't check. And we really appreciate all of our meat buddies. Thanks for being here, Ezra. Thanks for powering through this episode.
Yeah, we did it.
Well, we saw you face for part of it. It was good. You mentioned it. Speaking of which, I forgot to mention, you can also watch us do these episodes. If you think the thing that we're missing was face, you can do that at youtube.com/Alex Falcone. Thanks for being here, Hunter.
Yeah, thank you. Shrek's the best movie of all time.
Fun thing about watching us on YouTube is that Hunter is always in front of a green screen, but he's not using it for anything. So you at home could very easily chroma key whatever you want behind him.
Like Shrek, maybe.
You could put a different green behind him. Also, thank you so much for being here. Anthony Trekthany, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad to be here.
You sound like it. We'll talk to everybody next week. Goodbye.